All right, so as promised, I am vlogging my sort of path here to work. Hopefully, this will be helpful to some folks out there who, are pounding the pavement looking for jobs in media, whatever it is the role you want to assume. My case, so I moved from Missoula, Montana, where there's some work, but it just was kind of feeling like the supply was outweighing the demand, really, to be honest. And I just wanted to open myself up to a lot more other kinds of opportunities. Got to a point where my son was grown and heading off to school on the East Coast, and I just kind of was like, "What? My job here in Montana is done. What else is out there, right?" And so my wife and I packed it up. Let's see, 10 days ago, as of the date of this recording. 10 days ago, we packed up and, let's see, today is Thursday, and just this previous Saturday, we moved into this place in Northeast Minneapolis. And so I'm kind of getting my office scenario set up here, computers. I got my network attached storage set up with 10 gig Ethernet. So that I can, access my files, all on, so 32 approximate terabytes of data there. Anyhow, so what's the process here? Well, the process essentially is that I go to websites like APA, ASMP, just Googling in general, LinkedIn, kind of anywhere that I can to find data regarding photographers and directors and producers and directors of photography in my specific area. So wherever you're at, that would be the first step, would be to do kind of the hard, boring research of essentially looking up websites and compiling data. I'm looking for the names, addresses, phone numbers, a general blurb about their specialty, kind of what they do. And then I put that all into a Google Sheet in a big spreadsheet, names, addresses, phone numbers, specialty, email, all that, and kind of indicating, do they do motion work as well or just stills, right? Because in my case, I'm going to be marketing to them in a number of different ways. If they're just a still photographer, I can market to them as a digital tech. I'm a longtime digital tech, over 15 years of experience doing that. And, fully kitted out with computers and cart and the whole deal. And so that's something that I can directly market to them as kind of a support person to help them on set. Now, a lot of these folks also do motion work, whether they're directing or DPing. Depends on I kind of look into that and kind of investigate. I look at their video work and kind of see if there's any behind the scenes or anything to kind of indicate what their specific role was, if it was just director or both director and cam op or what. Sometimes it's very, large scale. Sometimes it's small scale. Just depends. Sometimes they're mostly stills and they do stop motion, or they do a certain amount of video, but not they're not necessarily focused on being DPs solely. They're more focused on being photographers, let's say. But anyhow, in those cases, those folks I can market to, kind of in crossways. If they need somebody to do location sound for them, I'm available. If they need somebody to help them with camera, I'm available. If they have still photography needs, I can do digital tech work or Photoshop retouching. So I kind of make notes, right? And then once I kind of gathered up, anyone that I have an address for, I can then send an actual mailer postcard to them. So I print out on just Avery labels their information, my information, so it looks nice. I pop one of my cards in the mail to them with a nice little personalized letter to just introduce myself, my background. I really like to keep it short and sweet, almost bullet point. I don't like to get into long, drawn out blah, blah, blah about me, but more here's what I do, here's what I can offer you, and I'm looking for work. And, here's an example of this. If you want to learn more about me, go to these websites, kind of thing. And I mail that off. And I make sure on my spreadsheet that I mark the date that I mailed them or emailed them. And then I know after, so I can kind of plug on my calendar ahead of time, oh, I need to get back in touch with this person. I sent them a mailer. So now I'm going to send them an email and say hey, I sent you a mailer a week ago. Wondering if you happen to have seen it. Was would love to talk on the phone. I even have sorry for the mess here, but I even have a print portfolio. That's my dog's bed. That I can bring with me. That shows not only my photographic work to show kind of my skills with that, if that's important to them, but I also have a specific portfolio that's just my before and after retouching work. And so I usually will show them that, to show like, hey, you need somebody to do this kind of work. I'll be able to help you do this kind of work. Anyhow, the sort of vlogging thing with my phone is really weird because I got to look off frame over here at the camera in order for it to look like my eyes are looking at you. Because if I look at me, then I look like I'm looking off to the side. It's very bizarre. I'd almost prefer to do this with a DSLR, but I figure for the sake of lo-fi, getting the content out there. So that's basically the gist is, I spent a lot of time researching who the people in the area I might be wanting to work with. I make a big list, right? And the other things I've been doing here is I've been fleshing out like my website, right? So, with all the information that they need, setting that up. I even go on to Google Maps and I look up their studio and kind of determine like how far it is from where I am in case they happen to contact me. Because sometimes I'll look and I'll kind of sleuth and see where they, have their address, and maybe they're like way out of town someplace. And some folks might have a mailing address, but they work out of a particular studio, and they might mention the studio they work at. So I kind of look at where that is, just to kind of get an idea as to like what sort of commutes I'm looking at, all that kind of stuff. And from there, along with my, big mailer list. Not everybody has like a mailing address posted on their website or somewhere else that I might be able to sleuth. But they have an email, so at least I can shoot an email their way and just say, hey, my name is, this is what I'm up to. Here's a link to my website, go check it out, and maybe even append one of my mailers as a JPEG so that they can look at that and entice them into investigating me more, whatever it is that, if I think that they might be able to make use of my services. But anyhow, that's the gist. That's what I'm up to. I have one friend, and I'd like to make the point of this, that this is one of the really important parts that I've stressed to my students in the past when I say, it might be a good idea if you're getting out of school and you're like, what do? I know I want to work in photography, but there's no like jobs that I'm finding online for this, or the ones that exist are like, $12 an hour, or, maybe even whatever it may be, or, it might not feel like you're making a lot of money. Maybe you love it for a while but then you're like, oh, this isn't really like fitting the bill or paying the bills. And maybe you want to work on bigger sets. Maybe you're interested in like advertising or in a catalog or editorial, some of these other avenues besides just, shooting stuff on your own, and you want to get into kind of the commercial end and see what that's all about. And so I would always tell students, you should really assist, right? And I've had many students say, I don't want to assist, and that's okay. But here is one area where assisting can help you beyond the fact that you're like learning and getting paid to learn, is that you make connections. So like I moved to this city and I know, in at least as far as people in my industry, one person. That's it. I only know one person in the general industry, and it's a stylist. And it's a stylist that I worked with. She's a prop stylist. I worked with her 2003, so 20 years ago. And I haven't really even seen her in like, I don't know, probably like 15 years. But I contacted her and I said, hey, I'm moving to your city and let's talk. And she was like, oh my God, come on over. And so when I was here visiting, kind of scoping apartments and such, places to live, my wife and I went over and met with her, and we talked work and all that. And she was willing to take my Google Sheet spreadsheet and add names to it and phone numbers and kind of like how she knows them and whatnot. So like one connection gave me like 10 more names who are like producers, people who would directly be hiring me on bigger shoots. And so while that hasn't come to fruition yet, where I've like tapped into that just yet, because I'm still compiling my list and getting my postcards, gathered. I just ordered them. They'll be here in a week, no, less than a week. just the importance of like the connections that you make when you're in other roles on set, and that how 20 years later you might be able to like cash in a little bit on knowing somebody in that industry in a new place. Like, oh my gosh, I could go to New York, I know people, I could go to San Francisco, LA, here in Minneapolis. I know a couple people in the Chicago area. So it's kind of like the web, Dallas, Fort Worth area, I know some people there. So it's like the web like grows as you work in this industry, in these different roles, as you get to know people. And at some point you might find yourself relocating and having to cash that in. And whether those connections will amount to anything for me, I don't know until I send them my info and say, hey, this is what I do, and do you need me to help you, kind of thing. But I just want to stress that that's like one of the probably the chief reasons why I tell people like assisting is a good thing to do in the beginning of your career, because it can lead to connections that are really super key, potentially even 20 years later. So anyhow, that's the gist. I compile a list, I send out mailers, I send out emails, then I wait for like a week or so, and then I maybe make phone calls or follow-up emails, and just kind of like take the temperature of who's doing what and what their needs are and how busy they are. I contact studios, I contact producers, I contact photographers directly, DPs, all these people basically, to let them know, here's who I am, here's what I do, here's how I can help you. Have a nice day. So that's where I'm at right now. My place is still kind of getting put together. It's only been, like a week or so, not even a week. It's as far as Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Today is Thursday. It's only been 5 days since moving in to this new city, and I finally got my computer up and running and hitting the ground running here. And I'll do my video too soon when I get ready to do a mailer and see where we are at from there. All right. Thanks for watching. See you again.